gonna be over here.
Yes, click your red
It
button.
looks too small, doesn't it?
All right, everybody good? We're rolling? All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast, episode 81, Masters of Athletic Training at U of H, recorded May 21st, 2014. Our special guests this week are Dr. Josh Yellen and Dr. Mark Knoblauch. They are the program directors at the University of Houston for the Masters of Athletic Training program. I am your host, Jeremy Jackson, and of course, with me is
George.
Marlon,
Lorena.
Jocelyn,
Marissa.
Brianna.
And then you have Dr. Knoblauch and Dr. Yellen. I'm not sure you should be able to see them in the camera. There we go. All right, so we got some people doing some different jobs. Lorena's switching the cameras today, so you just have to tweet her and tell her that she's doing a great job or doing a bad job one way or the other. So if you want to join the conversation, you can use the hashtag #TheSMB, and you can ask questions for Dr. Yellen or Dr. Knoblauch, and you can go to sportsmedicinebroadcast.com. That's where the live stream is. It's hosted right there through YouTube. So again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com, using hashtag #TheSMB. If you're doing Ustream, you can use the social feature, and Marlon will be able to see that. And links to pretty much everything is on our website, again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com. All right, so today we got the schedule's a little bit different. We have an activity because we have the senior faculty basketball game, which any of y'all going to it? You're going to go watch? Anybody going?
Don't you have to be in dress code?
I think so.
And have your
Usually
ID.
Do you have to have your ID?
supposed to.
Oh, then we can't go.
Oh well. I don't know, but I'm gonna be there so you can see me get hurt. I need just an athletic trainer to take care of me. But
That's why, like,
I guess you
can
guys
we
won't be there.
go?
All right, so enough about that. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully we do well. I think there's only like 6 of us, and I'm not in basketball shape, so we'll see how long it lasts.
You're an athletic trainer shape.
Yep. That means I can walk out to the field. Okay. All right, without much further ado, we'll go ahead and get right to our guests, and they're going to be talking about their program. So,
Dr. Yellen, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Dr. Josh Yellen. I am the program director for the Master of Athletic Training program in the Department of Health and Human Performance at the University of Houston.
Oh, Dr. Knoblauch, can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Very good. I work on the Mark Knoblauch, and I am the clinical coordinator at the University of Houston. So I work with Josh and Dr. Yellen in running the new Master of Athletic Training program.
Mr. Knoblauch. Oh my gosh.
What's the same question?
Oh, hold on. It says same question.
So do you guys want us to tell you a little bit about our program?
Yes.
How about that?
You want to
All right.
you need to rescue him.
So this is what we call an entry-level master's in athletic training, and I don't know if you guys are keeping up with some of the trends that are happening in athletic training, but on the athletic training education side, there is a movement that says that the entry-level qualifications for athletic training should be at the master's degree and not at the undergraduate degree. And so there are 367 accredited athletic training programs in the country, and about 26 of those right now are at the entry-level master's degrees. And so the Master of Athletic Training program at the University of Houston, this is the first athletic training program that they've ever had at the University of Houston. It's the first athletic training program that they've ever had in the city of Houston. So this is brand new to everybody. And we're really excited about all the potential and all the partnerships that we had. And we have developed so far. Like, for instance, we have secured affiliations with Memorial Hermann Medical Group, Memorial Hermann Sports Medicine and Rehab, Memorial Hermann Ironman, and we're in the process of securing our affiliations with UT, University of Texas Health Science Center, which will include UT physicians, Dr. Lowe and his group, all that other good stuff.
all right, so you said it's an entry-level master's.
Correct. It's an entry-level master's degree. So you need a bachelor's degree in exercise science, in kinesiology, in something along those lines. The reason why is because the prerequisites for the program are a year of anatomy, a year of physiology, biomechanics, exercise physiology, statistics, psychology, and then, functional anatomy, nutrition, motor learning, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I understood an entry-level master's to be where I go in straight from high school, and then so from high school I begin my work on my master's. Is that?
No, so from high school what you do is that you go get a degree, a bachelor's degree, in a related field like kinesiology, exercise physiology, biomechanics, that kind of stuff. We have a couple students that majored in, if their university had a sports medicine curriculum. We have one of our incoming students that was a part of an athletic training program that, their accreditation got delayed, so she's applying to our program. So you go and you complete a bachelor's degree in some sort of related field, and just like any other graduate program in other like professions like PT, OT, chiropractic, that kind of stuff, you apply to our program as a graduate student. And we're a 2-year curriculum, summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring. So if you start in the summer of 2014, we start our first class June 2nd, so in a couple Mondays from now, and they'll graduate in May of 2016 with a Master of Athletic Training degree.
And so in a couple weeks, that's going to be your very first class?
This is our inaugural class, right. I arrived here last year, June 1st, 2013, and my task was to develop the curriculum, start to put the foundation and groundwork together, which also included me finding a qualified clinical coordinator, and I was lucky enough to find Dr. Knoblauch here to my left. He comes with an incredible amount of qualifications in that he was a head athletic trainer at Lamar University for 7 years, was a head athletic trainer at junior college, and then went on and got his PhD at University of Houston, and then did a postdoctoral fellowship at Baylor College of Medicine. And I was lucky enough to be able to find him and recruit him and convince him to come on and work with me.
You didn't have to convince too hard. It was a pretty neat deal. And when you get the chance to build your own program, that's pretty incredible opportunity.
All right, so then can you define for me what is it called whenever I go straight from high school? Like, I know physical therapy has like a 5-year thing or a 6-year thing where you can go straight from high school to get your doctorate of physical therapy, that kind of thing.
Yeah, those are called bridge programs. There are a very small amount of programs that do that. Well, you'll see it's called a 3+2 or a 4+2, that kind of stuff. And there are some programs that would do that. Well, they will say, and we see it in a couple medical schools around the country too, where they say, go through 3 years of your undergraduate, complete all your prerequisites, and then you have a guaranteed admission. So like in a medical school, it would be a 3+4. And so there are some, again, 3+2s, 4+2s, that kind of stuff. This is not that program. So typically the majority of programs that you're going to apply to in graduate school are, as a high school student, you graduate from high school and you apply to university. And so you get into the university, you declare a major, and so we want you to declare kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise science, and go do well in that and complete all your prerequisites, and then when it gets to be your senior year of college, apply to our program. We have very specific application requirements we want you to obtain before coming in, being accepted to our program.
One of the ways I've described it to people that have asked what is different about the entry-level masters is simply it's athletic training school. Just like you go to physical therapy school, you go to undergraduate 4 years, you get high GPA, you take the prerequisites, and then you go and you are concentrated only in physical therapy or in physician assistant or in medical school. That's exactly what we're doing now. Is they're only taking athletic training courses. They do their rotations. It's basically like an athletic training school, but it's a Master of Athletic Training program. So it's not like it was an undergrad where you major in something. There's a lot of, you can major in almost anything as long as you got your hours, you did your time in the athletic training room, you got your appropriate number of hours. Well, now in the entry-level masters, it's moved to you are dedicated for 2 years in a cohort to getting your Master of Athletic Training. At the end of it, you've acquired enough hours. You take only those coursework to do your rotations, and you sit for the national exam and hopefully pass and become athletic training with a master's degree. So that's a little way I try to. People have understood kind of what an entry-level master's is athletic training school at a master's level.
All right, so the entry-level term really means that you're kind of like you're not in the profession yet.
You start at
Yeah,
ground zero.
it's a professional. It's a professional degree.
And
Okay.
You come in as a
Right.
cohort. You graduate with whatever class you come in with. You take the same courses. You do different rotations, but you graduate at the same time. It's just like you were moving through a cohort at another professional school. Unlike an undergrad where you may be majoring in engineering and being a student athletic trainer, and then if somebody else will come along and they're majoring in kinesiology, you'll go to different courses. In the master's level, the entry-level masters, they come in as a cohort, go all the way through, and hopefully graduate at the same time and all pass their tests at the same time.
All right, so Dr. Yellen, tell me a little bit more. You told me, or I guess you told me about Dr. Knoblauch, but tell me a little bit more about your path to
How
to
I
where
got
you
here?
are. Yeah.
Okay, so I've been in athletic training now for about 15 years. I got my bachelor's degree in 1999 from Cal State Northridge. I got my master's degree in 2004 from Cal State Long Beach or Long Beach State. And then from there, I went to Southeastern Louisiana University where I worked as a faculty member, and then I always did outreach for a hospital system out there. So I always kept my skills sharp. I was faculty there. I became the clinical coordinator. I became the program director. Along the way, I got my doctorate in educational leadership, where I looked at leadership behaviors of program directors in athletic training education. And then after that run, I was there for about 10 years. This opportunity at University of Houston opened up, and like Dr. Knoblauch said, it was an opportunity where I could take all my experiences, everything I've been thinking about over the last 10 to 12 years, and the opportunity to literally start up your own program, take everything you've learned, apply it, and build it from the ground up. Not many people have an opportunity like that, let alone an opportunity in a city like Houston. You're the 4th largest city in the country. We have all this incredible resources around us, all the major pro teams. We've got the greatest medical center in the country, and as a part of my job, I also work with the astronaut strength conditioning and rehabilitation program at NASA. So here was an opportunity that you just literally couldn't pass up. So that's how I got here.
Very cool. Very cool. So you said you came from Louisiana, right? Or that was your last stop?
That was my last. Yeah, I spent from 2004 to 2013 in Louisiana.
Got it. So are you married, family?
Yep, married to Jessica, my wife. We've been together for 17, married for 15. We have a son, Matthew, 13, Rebecca, 9, and we live in League City, Texas.
Very cool. So how are you like in Texas versus California or Louisiana? Or
how I describe Houston, Texas, is that if you take all the luxuries of Southern California and you combine it, we lived in Baton Rouge, and you combine it with a little bit of the southern slower pace of Baton Rouge, and you smash those two entities together, you've got Houston. Yeah, and that's the only way I can describe it, right? I mean, everything you need. You have all the luxuries. Again, it's the 4th largest city in the country,
right.
So you have all the luxuries of a huge city, anything you need, with traffic.
Yeah.
But anything you need is about 20 minutes away.
Wow.
And then it's just a little bit slower than the other big 3, LA, New York, Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I describe it. I love it. This is a great opportunity.
Very cool. And Dr. Knoblauch, you said that you're from the Texas area, right?
No, actually, I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in Kansas, went to school, undergrad at Wichita State, and then got my master's at UNLV, and then got my first job as a head athletic trainer at a junior college about 30 miles from my hometown, which is a very small hometown, 3,500 people. So that was a pretty neat situation. And then had the opportunity to go to Lamar University, so I moved to Beaumont in 99. And so I got certified nationally in 96, and then passed the state boards here in 99. So I moved to Texas in 99, worked at Lamar University until 05, and then went to the University of Houston, left the profession to go back to school. Got my PhD at University of Houston in 2011, and then did a postdoctoral fellowship at Baylor College of Medicine, and finished that up in December, and started here at U of H in January. So I like to tell people I took a winding road to get back to the profession, but I'm very glad I did it, and I learned a lot, and now that I'm back in the profession, I'm excited to keep going.
Okay, so you said you were at Lamar and
Mm-hmm.
the head athletic trainer in 99?
Mm-hmm.
I graduated high school in 99, and I was planning on going to Lamar where Chad Barrett was.
Yep, I replaced Chad. Great guy.
But then about midsummer, I got a call from HBU, and they were offering me a full scholarship.
Yep.
So I was like, well, I got to take this.
You
Follow
got
the
a
money.
full academic scholarship? Or
Yeah,
full
it was
for-
athletic
For what sport?
training.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so all I
Oh,
paid
full
for.
athletic training scholarship.
Yeah.
Nice.
So all I paid for was my food and my books.
It's hard to pass down a full ride. I
Yeah.
mean, and the students in here need to understand that too. It's like, yeah, you may love one school, but if you have a chance to avoid student loans, you gotta
Take it.
really think about that.
Yeah. So we would have been working together, but
Yep.
I don't know. There's
You'd be
other
loving me or
plans.
hating me right now. Who knows?
So that's
Yeah.
all right. I mean, it worked out pretty good for me.
Yeah, good.
We were in the same, at Southeastern, we were in the same conference as Lamar. So when Dr. Knoblauch and I started to talk, and he went to grad school at UNLV.
Yeah.
And so when I was back in California, we were also part of the same athletic training, the Far West Athletic Trainers Association. It's the same district. And so there were a lot of things. This is things that students need to understand, whether you're in high school, college, graduate school, or you're out in the profession, that athletic training follows the same rules as like the Kevin Bacon, 7 degrees of
degrees, yeah.
separation or whatever it is. And then I can get to Dr. Knoblauch in 1 or 2 people.
Probably 2, yeah.
Yeah, and so what was really interesting is that when I was applying for this position at the University of Houston, everybody on the inner circle I didn't necessarily know about, meaning our department chair, Dr. Lane, and some other people, but I knew people that knew them.
Right.
And so it turns out that they're doing as much research on me as I'm doing on them. And the same thing with Dr. Knoblauch is that when I started looking for the clinical coordinator, I came across him, and although he and I didn't know each other until January, really, I knew a number of people that knew him, and so you feel like you get a good amount of research, and that's a great lesson for students to learn, is that, especially in a profession like athletic training, you need to make sure that you do well in school and that you get a really good education and that you do everything you're supposed to do and that you do well along the way. And if you do that, doors are going to start to open for you. And that when those doors open, you go back and you thank the people that opened the doors for them, and make sure that you don't burn any bridges, because you never know who you're going to run into in 5, 10, 15 years down the road. You and I may not know each other, but I know 4 people that know you, and I can get to you that way.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a great lesson learned.
And actually, I think it was last year, Dr. Penny Wilson was the one that actually kind of connected you with
Mhm.
me, saying, so it's
Yep.
not even athletic trainer, but Dr. Wilson.
Right.
So it's a small world. And we talked to Bob Marley, and I told a story about how I worked a tournament, for him, but I never got paid. And this was when I was in college and I was broke, and so I was mad. I was mad at Bob Marley, and just by chance, I didn't call him and tell him what I thought. Well, Bob Marley ended up hand-delivering my resume to the Houston Texans.
That's right.
And then so there I got my internship there with them, and now Bob and I are friends.
Right.
So it's
Similar. When I first got here, I must have been here for maybe 2 weeks, and they were having the Texas-Louisiana All-Star football game.
mhm.
And so I, just by chance, I had reached out to Bob and introduced myself and, hey, how are you doing? Turns out the head athletic trainer for the Louisiana team is a former student of mine, Scott Giardina. And so, I talked to Bob and I go, hey, this is who I am. Scott's one of my alumni, that kind of stuff. And from that point on, Bob and I start communicating all the time, and we're working together. And so now Bob, Marley, Bubba Wilson, James, Bubba Wilson, and Dan Barnes are all going to be preceptors for our program through Memorial Hermann. So it's been, again, it's one of those great connections.
All right, so let's go back to your program now.
Okay.
You kind of mentioned it. All right, so I have a Bachelor's of Science
Mhm.
in Kinesiology and Biology from HBU.
Okay.
I am interested in getting a master's. I've looked at Lamar University online because it's about $10,000. I can do it online, and I don't have to quit my job or anything like that. So tell me about the program there at U of H. And
Right. So this is a full-time professional program, just like you would make the commitment to go to a professional program and other like professions. So imagine this is full-time going into a PT program or an OT program or a chiropractic program or even to medical school. So this is a pretty big commitment where you've got your degree in kinesiology and biology and that you apply and that you start in the summer. And the first couple classes you're going to take is anatomy with cadaver lab. You're going to take an emergency medicine class, and you're going to start in your clinical rotations. By the time you get out of this program, you're going to have probably around 1,400 hours of clinical education rotations, and they are in a very prescribed sequence. We have to abide by the Commission on the Accreditation for Athletic Training Education. And so Katie sets down these specific standards that we have to follow and that we have to uphold and abide by. And we have a certain curriculum that's set up that's all competency specific. So this is a big commitment. This is one of those things of where we've had before, can I still work and go through this program? The likelihood of you working and going through an entry-level master's degree program like this is few and far between. And if you are going to work, you have to have something that's going to allow you to be very flexible, because your schoolwork and your clinical rotations come first.
I gotcha. Right. So I mean, that really answers the question for me. So it's really for like a new grad or somebody that's making a life transition.
Right, and we've had a couple where the state of Texas is unique in that the state of Texas had a licensure for athletic training before the nation really had the board of certification.
Right.
And so if you look at the history, I think the first, I think it was in 1970 that the first, really certification exam was issued, and it wasn't until 1975 that, the letters ATC were designated for an athletic trainer. And now we've moved to AT and that kind of stuff. But Texas had a licensure before anybody else had a certification. So in the state of Texas, you can practice as an athletic trainer by coming out of a state-approved school. Like HBU would be one, and there's some other schools that allow you to go sit for that state exam. So we've had a couple LATs inquire about our program and say, look, I want to go and get into the master's degree so that I can be board certified nationally. And that'll give me some more latitude to move to other states and do some other things. And so the question becomes, well, if I'm LAT versus board certified, can I do these, are there certain courses that I cannot take, or can I get credit for this? And my answer is, this is a CATIE, we're moving towards CATIE accreditation, and we have to follow national guidelines. So that LAT, although comes in with a vast amount of experience, will be treated just like, somebody without any athletic training experience at all. They have to follow the prescribed curriculum.
Gotcha. So they just have to take the courses in order,
take the courses in order, just like everybody else. And the benefit is that on a Friday night, if you want to go cover a football game and it does not interfere with your clinical rotations, that if you've got a free Friday night, you can go do that. You can make some extra money on the side.
All right. So you said some of the guys from Memorial Hermann are going to be preceptors for your program. What does the word preceptor mean?
Right, preceptor. You kind of go back in time, and just until recently, I think in 2012, preceptor was the approved clinical instructor, and before that was the clinical instructor, and that CATIE moved to the word preceptor. But really, clinical instructor, approved clinical instructor, preceptor, they're all pretty much interchangeable. And so the people that have been in the profession for a while, and it took me some time to get that terminology down. Okay, we're going to take these clinical instructors or approved clinical instructors and call them preceptors now. It's the same thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. So they're going to be teaching there at U of H?
They're going to be clinical instructors, so our students are going to be doing rotations with them. And so they have, Dr. Knoblauch and I just did preceptor training where we met with the UH sports medicine staff, and we met with Bubba and Dan, and we spent 2 hours going through what clinical education is, what are the guidelines for clinical education, our requirements, all those other things. And Dr. Knoblauch will be our clinical education coordinator. So he's really going to be the one that's going to be interacting with the preceptors, looking over all the hours of the students, making sure that everybody in that in clinical education really has the ability to be successful.
All right. So if I wanted to be a preceptor, would I have to be VOC certified?
Correct.
Okay. So that wouldn't work. I was, and then I let it go because it was my fault. I forgot to keep paperwork, and then I forgot to, whenever I went from my other school to this school, I forgot to pay the dues. And so then I was late, so then they audited me, and then I just didn't have the paperwork, and I was like, well.
Well, if you had your BOC certification before, my recommendation to you is contact the BOC and see what you need to do to again, get your BOC. I know of a couple of different cases where people let their BOC lapse and then came back, and the BOC with a certain amount of continuing education hours and a fee, etc., you're able to get back. So if you were a BOC before, I would imagine they would be able to work with you, but you got to be able to contact them. Probably start at www.bocatc.org.
All right. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm interested in because there's programs where I could go during the summer and volunteer at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, or
Right.
go to Dr. Andrews Institute in Florida. But I can't do that just as the LAT.
Right.
But whenever I let it go, I wasn't thinking that far forward. But
Yeah.
like that's kind of how
That's a very common thing in Texas. Is well, if you never leave Texas, you don't need BOC. But 10 years down the road, people get married or they lose their job. It's like, well, I'm kind of limited now. So we always encourage people, if you have the opportunity to get it, or in your case, get it back, definitely do so. It's very powerful in some situations.
It gives you a lot of latitude, like you said. There are other opportunities outside the state of Texas.
right for sure.
Yeah. Especially over the summer. You may not want to move from Texas.
Right.
But you've got some other opportunities that you just can't pursue because you don't have that.
Yeah. One time I ate barbecue in Atlanta, and there's no way I can leave Texas. It was bad. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about your program.
Okay. Which, by the way, you can access our program at www.hhpuh.edu/MAT.
All right, so you guys are going to have to send me that link. All right, is one of you, Laura?
www.hhp.uh.edu/MAT.
All right, so either you guys on Twitter, or is there
We
a
are
Twitter for the
not, but
program?
the program has a Facebook account. We have not ventured into the what do they call it? The Twitter dome, the tweeting.
Twitter sphere. maybe?
Twitter sphere.
I don't
We
know.
have not entered the Twitter sphere. Yeah.
All right, so we'll get those websites there, and I'll post them because I'll put a link to the show notes and when I release the episode.
Great.
So, okay, so we talked about like the goal is to create board certified athletic trainers. What is the program going to cost?
That's a really good question. We have a link on our program under FAQs that specifically address the costs. And if I'm not mistaken, I think if you're in state, it's $28,000 for a master's degree. My understanding from our graduate program administrator, Todd Butte, is that it went up slightly from that. But Dr. Knoblauch and I, when we were putting together the program and looking, through making the handbook and developing everything, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of is that we had accurate costs, because we understand this is a big commitment, and that you've already gone through undergraduate and now you're going to go to graduate school. We want to make sure that we're as transparent as we possibly can, and so we put all the costs there. And I think if you're in state, it's $28,000. If you're out of state, it's substantially more, just because of out of state tuition. So you'll have to maintain residency, and there are some other programs that you can apply to as an out of state student, but I would say the majority of our students applying this year, I don't know, we have like 2 or 3 out of state.
I thought we had 1 or 2.
Yeah, no, we had one from North Carolina. We had one from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to encourage them to get residency as fast as possible, so they can afford the cheaper tuition.
And the other thing too is that there's some bridge programs between different states that one of our students from Mississippi informed us about was a bridge program between Mississippi and Texas, and we didn't know about it. So I think one of the benefits that we have is that as an entry-level master's degree, we really control what it is that we do. So we have myself, Dr. Knoblauch, Dr. Lane is our department chair, and we have a graduate program administrator, Todd Butte, who is outstanding at what he does. And so when we get inquiries about out-of-state tuition or these bridge programs for tuition costs, I can go to Todd and just say, hey, what do you know about this? And he may know something about it. If he doesn't, he's going to go look it up and make sure that, as a graduate student, you can be successful.
One of the things I tell people is there's no substantial difference between our master's program and then any other master's program in terms of cost. We don't have any exorbitant fees, equipment fees, anything like that. But what I tell people is it's an investment. Yes, it's financial, it's a strain, but it's a 2-year investment on your future. You're going to graduate here with a master's degree and national certification. You're going to open up more doors. You're going to make yourself more marketable. You're going to be able to negotiate a higher salary, hopefully with a master's degree. So from that aspect, yes, it's a lot of money when you look at it on paper, but what are you getting out of it? It's that side of it I want people to look at when they're thinking, do I want to go on for a master's? Do I want to go get a job now? I can go take this Texas boards or whatever. That's absolutely right. It's just a matter of whether you want to make the investment for that extra 2 years to hopefully pay off in the future over the long term of what's your return on your investment of a higher salary or whatever else. So.
He brings up a good point. Return on investment is a big keyword. What, yeah, this is going to be 28, 30 grand. What's your return on investment 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years after? And it'll be big. As we know, the majority of athletic trainers, NATA I think puts out a statistic that says 70% have a master's. I think it's more like 95% have a master's. And so with the extra 5% at the bachelor's level, and then 2.5 at the bachelor's, 2.5 like myself and Dr. Knoblauch who have got their doctorates. And so if 95% have a master's degree, this puts you right in the competitive field, that now you are specifically trained with a master's degree in athletic training. So I think, like he said, it comes up. There's specific benefits that you're going to get out of this.
So I have a question. If it's going to cost me $28,000 to get a master's, why would I choose the program there at U of H over being a graduate assistant at, just say UT or A&M or something like that, where they're paying me,
right,
and I can
really
still get my
question.
master's?
So again, let's go back to entry-level masters versus post-professional masters. So the graduate assistant position is a post-professional master's. So the idea is that you've already come out of an undergraduate accredited, it's CATIE accredited athletic training program. Say you came out of UT Austin, you came out of Baylor, you came out of another undergraduate accredited program, LSU, whatever it is, and you go and you apply to be a graduate assistant athletic trainer and go get your master's in the kinesiology department. That's what's called a post-professional master's degree, where they're going to pay you because you're already a professional. This is an entry-level master's, so you're not a professional yet. So both are entry-level degrees. One's at the undergraduate, one's at the master's. And the NATA, if anybody's interested in looking at it, and I think we have it on our website, but the NATA a couple months ago released a white paper document, and they gave 11 very good reasons, and it was composed of a huge team as to why the profession really needs to move to an entry-level master's as opposed to staying at the bachelor's. And so if people have not seen that yet, I think it's really worth a look at it to see what the NATA Board of Directors has issued as to the 11 reasons to why we probably need to move to an entry-level master's.
Okay, so I see that on Twitter. They say the NATA white paper statement. Was that just like a newsletter, basically?
Yeah, white paper statement is just a document that's released, right? It's again, and a white paper is just a term.
That's what I was wondering. What is
right,
white
like
paper?
It's almost like a journal article.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a statement. It's a document. It's probably 10 pages long, and then they give their reasons, and then they expand on each of those reasons. For example, I don't remember the exact reason, but reason A, and they'll give quite a bit of discussion on why they back that up or where their conclusions come from. So it's a pretty good read, pretty powerful read, depending on which side of the fence you're sitting on. But they really back up what they're saying. They're not just saying. It's not a position statement. We think this. It's the position statement with a lot of background information as how they derive that conclusion. So 11 times over, I think.
I see here. I see the website here. Let me correct it again. It's www.hhp.uh.edu/MAT. So www.hhp.uh.edu/MAT. There you go.
All right, good job.
Thank you very much.
Picked it up later.
He was talking to them.
Oh.
Either way. So good job. Way to see it there.
Thank you.
Dr. Yellen. Way to be on top of things.
I thought so too.
All right, so where were we? We took them out. So I mean, tell me more about the program. I mean, I guess you said the courses have to go in order according to CATIE.
Well, yeah. So CATIE issues what's called. Actually, it's not. So let's back up and look at. You have the Commission on Accreditation for Athletic Training Education. Then you have the National Athletic Trainers Association. Then you have the Board of Certification for Athletic Training. So let's give a little history on each, so everybody knows who the three players are. Back in the day, it used to be the NATA BOC, right? So it was the National Athletic Trainers Association Board of Certification. In 1989, the Board of Certification, the NATA split. So if you look at the National Athletic Trainers Association as the professional membership, and that's www.nata.org. And so that's the professional association where you can look at Career Center, you can get the Journal of Athletic Training, the Journal of Athletic Training Education, the NATA News, those types of things, and they really are specific for a professional membership. The Board of Certification is the division that handles your ability to practice as an athletic trainer nationwide. And if you go one step down from that, each state, with the exception of California and Alaska, have specific state practice acts. I don't know why California, you would think that they'd jump on it, but they haven't, and then Alaska, I don't know why either. But the other 48 states have specific laws that athletic trainers have to follow. Some a little bit more liberal, some a little less liberal, et cetera, that, in terms of what the athletic trainer can do. So that's the NATA, and then that's the BOC. And then you have CATE, the Commission on Accreditation for Athletic Training Education. And CATE, with the help of both the Board of Certification and the NATA, come up with what's called these different standards for athletic training. The NATA handles the educational competencies. The Board of Certification handles the Practice Act, or the Role Delineation Study Practice Analysis. And then they come together and they say, okay, what are the specific educational competencies and the clinical proficiencies that an athletic trainer should have when graduating from a program? And then so when you take a program like ours, we go and we look through all these different competencies and we say, these are the classes that are going to meet these competencies, and then we set the order of how they're going to take it. So CATE really doesn't say this is the order that needs to be. What it really ends up happening is that these are the courses that we're going to deliver that are going to be competency specific. And so myself and Dr. Knoblauch designed the curriculum, and we put it in an order that we thought was going to be best for the success of our students. I think probably one of the more unique things that our program has, and I'm excited that Dr. Knoblauch is on board because of his training, both PhD at UH and postdoctoral fellowship, is that at the end of every semester our students are going to do what's called a clinical case study. And the objective of that is that the clinical case study, there'll be 6. One of these case studies is going to be submitted for presentation or publication at either the TSATA, SWATA, or the NATA, or another professional journal. So our students are going to get the specific education, the specific clinical education, and they're also going to have a chance to do research. So they're really going to be, this trifecta of success.
One of the things about those competencies, too, that guides us, not only do we design the class, basically we took all the competencies, we kind of grouped them and created a class. What's also interesting about the accreditation process is that the students cannot be exposed to a situation or work in a situation until they've been formally instructed that in a class. So, for example, one of the first designs of the accreditation or the curriculum was we had research in the first semester. Well, we can't do that because they need exposure. I mean, one of the first things you have to think about as an athletic trainer, what do? You give ICE. Well, we have to formally instruct them on what are the components of that, what does ICE do, and everything else before we can put them in a situation or in a rotation where they would be able to do that task. It's kind of different because, I mean, if you think of, I graduated from an internship program in the mid-'90s. It was first day, hey, go put a Band-Aid on a student, go wrap ice on it. I don't know what I'm doing, but hey, it's common sense. You do this, you do this. Can't do that anymore in an accredited program. You've got to have formal instruction in a task before that student is allowed to perform that task on a patient or an athlete or something else. So that came into play a little bit in our curriculum as well. Of how we designed the classes is we wanted to get them so that when they're in a situation, we're limiting the opportunity for them to say, oh, I can't do that, Mr. Athletic Trainer, because I haven't been taught that. So that went into the curriculum design a little bit too. So we have acute care, we have anatomy in the first semester to get them some basic, ice, heat application, first aid, emergency care of an individual, that has a potential serious injury. We can at least expose them to those situations so they can then actually work in those situations when they're in their rotations. So.
Our anatomy also is we've articulated with our College of Optometry, and they have a cadaver lab. So we were successful in affiliating with our College of Optometry, and so our students are going to have exposure to cadavers for their anatomy, which is going to be great. One, I think that's a victory for us, inter-university, being able to articulate with another discipline and say, look, there are some things that we can probably share. And I think the other thing is that, as we all know, athletic training is based off of anatomy, right? If you don't know your anatomy, you don't know much. And so the chance that these kids get to get in and, cadaver dissection and learn really, put their hands on the actual body parts to see how they move. And, again, like Dr. Knoblauch said, the emergency medicine aspect of it. Dr. Knoblauch was a head athletic trainer for 7-8 years. So he knows exactly what to do, how to do it. He knows all about all the protocols, emergency action plan development, all the different position statements. So these students right off the bat are going to learn, they're going to be immersed in probably your two most important aspects of athletic training, your knowledge of anatomy and your knowledge, to treat acute injuries.
I think that's definitely one of the things I missed out at HBU. We dissected cats and frogs, but
great if you're taping a frog's ankle.
Exactly. And it's my favorite class that I took was anatomy and physiology, my favorite class in high school. But besides taking the kids on a field trip to the Texas Chiropractic College, I've never been to a cadaver lab.
Right.
And so I think that's really cool that my phone's going off. Let me turn it off.
Maybe we got fans calling in.
Yeah.
It's actually Paul Waller. He was on here last week. I don't know what he's calling about, but
he's listening in. He knows
maybe
you
he
got
is
his
calling.
phone call. You can't hide it. You got to call him back now. Or after
Maybe.
we're done.
Put him on speakerphone. Let's find out what he wants.
All right, Paul, if you're listening, then you better call on Skype
Call
or
back.
something. So, all right. So, anyways, I was talking about the anatomy. I think that's really important. Like you said, the anatomy being the first thing. So, I know one of the questions about entry-level masters is that they don't have athletic training experience.
Right.
And so that's, obviously you have to have the 1,500 hours to be certified?
Well, Katie doesn't issue a specific number. It's program specific. But I'm going to squash your argument right here. Okay. If you want to go to medical school, you don't have any physician training. If you want to go to PT, OT, chiropractic school, PA school, nursing school, whatever it is, you don't have any training before you go. You're going to school to learn how to do that. This is the same. So a lot of it is just a paradigm shift in terms of thinking of, well, these students are coming in, they don't have any experience. Right, and if you want to be a physician, you didn't go into medical school having years of physician experience. You're going to school to learn how to be a physician. Same. So people need to look at it as this is a professional school. And I think that's, to be honest with you, one of the bigger issues in athletic training, is that in order to really get a seat at the table of that healthcare profession table, they need to understand that this needs to be considered just like all the other healthcare professions. You're going to school to learn how to do this. So I hope that answers your question.
Did you have something on that, Dr. Knoblauch? You look like you're about to.
No, I agree. That's what I was thinking. Is that's kind of what the white paper document put out, is that at the entry-level masters, these individuals will be only focusing on athletic training 100%. They'll be immersed in it. As compared to an undergrad, you go to your anatomy class, you go to your intro to sports medicine, your eval class, and then you go to history class. Yeah, and then you got to go to biology lab as well. And so one of their arguments in this white paper document is that at the master's level, in a cohort, you're with your other students, you're all taking the same courses. There's much more immersion and there's much more involvement, and you can get into a much deeper level because they only study athletic training related materials. So I was just thinking that's kind of one of the arguments for this white paper document, that why they recommend the transition to the entry level masters. And
I can tell you from experience, the 10 years that I was at Southeast Louisiana as faculty or clinical coordinator, program director, one of the biggest issues I had was like, hey, Dr. Yellen, I can't make it to my clinicals today because I have a final in my speech class. Okay. Well, here, just like Dr. Knoblauch said, there is no speech class. You've already got a degree. And by the way, before you even come in, you've already had a year of anatomy and physiology. You've already had a functional anatomy. You've already had exercise physiology. You've already had biomechanics. So you're already coming in with a vast amount of knowledge in that, and we're going to make sure that you perfect that. So, and like I said, Dr. Knoblauch keeps on bringing up great points. I think people need to start to realize this is about what's going to be best for the profession and not what's best for individual programs or what's best for individual people. At some point, we need to be able to start to move.
What are some of the rotations that you guys have? So what are some of the rotations that maybe Bubba's going to be teaching or that Bob's going to be teaching, being the clinical coordinator for? So what are the things they're going to go through?
Dr. Knoblauch?
Well, one of the things with the rotations, the first year, we're not going to put them in any situation that they would be a detriment or in the way of the site preceptor. So what we're first going to start out with, we're going to do a lot of rotation in the UH athletic department. So we're going to, because they're coming from entry level. They don't have a lot of acute care. They don't have a lot of experience. They're not a fourth year student that finally gets to work football that has a lot of experience. So we're going to work a lot in the athletic department at U of H their first year. Then we're going to start sitting them, and we're trying to set up some collaborations with some of the bigger things you think about in Houston, the Dynamo, the Texans. Trying to work with the Rockets. We're getting some rotations in the Med Center down at UT Sports or Memorial Hermann, get some rotations in the physical therapy department, things like that. So they're going to be on assigned rotation. We're also going to look at their career goals. What do they want to do? We'd like to get them, obviously, if they want to work football, we'd like to get them some more football experience as much as possible. Or if they want to work WNBA, can we somehow get them some rotations in? It gets them their credentials built up so that they have experience, they can go get that perfect job. Even I'd like to start thinking about things like dance. There's full-time athletic trainers that work in dance departments. We talked to the Houston Marathon to get them some experience there. So rotation-wise, it's not set in stone. You're not going to the cohort won't go through rotations together necessarily. They will probably the first year, but they'll be working with different sports. But then the second year we're going to try and tailor it to more what their goals are and what they're prepared for. Because obviously you said you worked with the Texans. If you get a new student, they're going to be in awe. They're in the Houston Texans training room, and we don't want that. We want individuals that are there to work. They're there to learn. They're there to be an asset to their preceptor. And so, but the rotations, we think with this program, it's very exciting to think we're in Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city with the Texas Med Center. We got 3 or 4 professional teams that they can work with, as well as all these other things like the Houston Dance or the opera, not the opera, but the marathon, things like that. We can get them rotations and get them clinical sites set up so they can go out and they can build their resume the way they want to build it and get them their dream job, hopefully. So.
And to add on to what Dr. Knoblauch said, people need to understand that athletic training is starting to emerge out of its traditional roots, right?
Right.
So really athletic training, back in the day when all of us came out, you really had just a few options. I could be an athletic trainer at a high school, I could be an athletic trainer at a college, I could be an athletic trainer in the pros. Those are your options. Now, athletic training's really expanded the gamut. So you have athletic trainers at Disney, you have athletic trainers in every branch of the military, you have athletic trainers for police departments and fire departments, and athletic trainers at NASA, and athletic trainers that are in industry now, and athletic trainers that are specific to the marathons or specific to dance companies or specific to different industrial and occupational settings. So our job is to expose them to all of these different avenues. And then, like he said, in your second year towards the end, we're going to figure out what it is that you want to do and help you get there. But we have to prepare all these students to make sure that they're successful in all these different avenues.
Sorry, I was trying to get her to take pictures for you guys. So.
I understand. At the end, we're going to take a picture with one of our cell phones because we have our communications director, Martha Hayes, and on our website and on the departmental website, and we also have a department Facebook page and a program Facebook page. We take all these pictures and we post them because we want people that are applying and people that are interested in this program, people who are interested in athletic training, to see what it is that we're doing and to see the community outreach that we have and to see the educational footprint that we're really developing.
And so, obviously you're talking about the marketing director. Another athletic training podcast, I've talked to him before, and I've actually mentioned him a couple different times, is Chris Linker. He's at Tusculum College in Tennessee. I think it's Greenville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. But he has a song. It's called the AT Podcast. So if you look up atpodcast.net, he may be a good person for you to talk to because he has another reach. His is specifically for athletic trainers. He's talked about, I think, Sarah Brown from New York, somewhere about entry-level master or something like that.
Sure. And
so he may be somebody that would also be good for you to contact and just have a different or a broader audience. I don't know who listens to mine, who listens to his, whatever.
Well, I thought the whole world listened to yours.
They probably do, but
they listen to who's best, right? They come here.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, now that you guys are on here, they will.
That's right.
So.
Well, he'll put anybody on. That's enough of that.
So, if that helps you out, I hope,
Yeah, we'll get his contact information afterwards and let him know that we were on your show and every other sports medicine athletic training podcast needs to follow what you're doing. So
this is pretty neat. This is a really neat opportunity, CEU wise and for everything. So
yeah, I do want to get to talking about GHADs in just a second, but how many people are you taking in at one time?
So we had 28 people apply. We took 16, and we had a couple people for whatever reason decide that it's not for them right now. So we're 14, 15 right now.
We'd like to. We think we have the capacity to take 20 a year, which being that it's a cohort per year, we have a total of 40 in the program at any one time. So that's a lot, but when you're in a cohort, and like I mentioned, everybody's learning the same thing, you're taking the same classes, you can move through much more structurally sound than if you took people from all that started. Somebody starts in December, some start in June, that wouldn't work as well. So the way this is set up is to bring them in as a group. They progress through as a group and graduate as a group. So 20 is our theoretical.
Yeah, 20 is
cap.
our magical number. With the two of us, we could probably manage 20.
I got you.
So if we're going to keep growing, we need to get more faculty.
Yeah. So now that you have about 15 now, do you go back and tell those people, hey, some spots have opened up, or are you just going to go with 15 for the first class and see how it goes?
That's a really good question. I think that.
Well, being that we're starting in 2 weeks, it's going to be tough to get it.
Right.
I mean, if we were starting in August, we'd be like, hey, we do have some spots up. We'd love to be in a situation where we're waitlisted people and say, 2 backed out, we've offered you, we have this position for you. But being that we started in June, it's a little, and one of the complications is some people graduate in May. And so if we start in June, it'd be tough for somebody to now meet all of our entrance requirements. There's things like physicals, get all your transcripts in, that kind of thing, meet the entrance requirements and still get here by June. Coincidentally, a lot of our first class is from U of H already, so it worked out perfectly for them. But to get more than what we have right now, it would be great. We'd love to. It's a matter of can they get everything done and start, because we can't have somebody starting on June 15th because they would miss so much of that first cohort that it'd be tough to get them caught up. But theoretically, yes, we could do it, but it'd be a tremendous amount of work on the students' part.
I think that's probably, looking at, again, this is our first year.
Right.
So we were incredibly happy with first year we had 28 people apply. And the fact that we hit the numbers that we had coming into the program. But like Dr. Knoblauch said, I think this is going to be a situation year 2, year 3, year 5, year 10, where we're going to have a wait list and say, hey, look, a spot or 2 opened up. If you can make it here in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, the spot's yours.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned having a physical.
Yeah. So CATIE standards require that athletic trainers or athletic training students applying to programs need to meet certain technical standards, and part of those technical standards is that you have to pass a physical. So you have to make sure that all your immunizations or shots are up to date. You have to make sure that you are physically and mentally sound to go through what it is that you're going to go through, because you're going to see things along the way that ordinarily people just don't get to see. Whether that's working with professional athletes, whether that is seeing some gruesome type things, you're going to have to do some manual labor. There are a lot of things that you're going to do as an athletic training student that other graduate students just aren't going to have to do because that's not part of their degree. So yeah, you need to be able to pass a certain physical that we need to see that you can do that, and that all your immunizations are up to date. So it's just like another healthcare profession that are your hepatitis vaccinations up to date? Are your tuberculosis vaccinations up to date? Are your MMRs, are they all up to date? All those different things. And those are all, again, CATIE standards. They have to go through bloodborne pathogen training, HIPAA training, OSHA training. There's a lot.
Background check, drug
criminal
tests.
background check, drug
That's
tests.
That's all dictated by our accreditation. So it's not just something we arbitrarily said. You know what? Let's have them take a drug test. Let's have them go, just to be safe. Let's have it's dictated to us. This is if you want accreditation, this is what you have to do. And surprisingly, I mean, you remember blind undergrad, you probably fill out an application, maybe you had to write an essay or something, and then you either got in or didn't.
In front of the firing squad and answer some questions.
Here it's I mean it's on our website too, the admission requirements just to send in, besides transcripts and everything else. But then once you get in, then you have to go through the background test, the drug test. What else is there? And it's like when you ask, could you still take more? We could if they can get all this done before June 2nd.
Right. Not to mention that in the first 2 weeks, Dr. Knoblauch and I have prescribed exactly what they're going to be doing over the first 2 weeks. That they don't have any clinical rotations during that first 2 weeks. It's all just onboarding of again, these are all the things that you have to do. You know, we have a handbook that they have to read through and acknowledge. They have to go through. Again, all this training and you know all these immunizations and background check and drug testing, and they also have to be members of the National Athletic Trainers Association, and they also have to have personal liability insurance, $3 to $5 million coverage, and those are all dictated by Katie standards. It's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, that's. So if you have 2 weeks and absolutely nothing to do,
Yes, and you want us to control your life for 2 years,
Yeah.
then go for it. But
And you know, to quote, and this is something that over time I think we've developed this equation, and I have it written in my office that people plus process plus product plus performance equals profit. And what that means is that we find the right faculty, people like Dr. Knoblauch, people like Todd Boutte, Martha Hayes, Dr. Lane, all of our preceptors,
Dr. Yellen.
Bob and Bubba and Dan and Mike O'Shea, our head athletic trainer, John Houston, Amanda Barbie, Haji Takashima, and Hide Okawa. You find all those different people, and you start to create a good team, and that makes the people. And then you go out and find the best students you can, and you make sure that you do all the right screening, and you make sure that you're developing the right team, and then you put the right process in place, like developing all the policy and procedure and making sure that you have all the right accreditation standards and handbooks and all those different things, and we create a really good product. And that we thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. And that you create a really good product, and that you send them out, and that the profit, right, or the result is going to end up taking care of itself. That's
Sorry. I think I turned down your mic while you were talking in the beginning of that because I was trying to remember which one was which. And so the bell schedule is different.
he was trying to mute you. He's like, that's enough. It's like
Yeah.
I've heard enough out of
it's
this
like
guy.
the music at the Oscars. They start the music. It's time to stop.
And so if you're listening and I cut out a little bit of Dr. Yellen, that's why. Because I was trying to let the kids leave quietly.
Okay, nice to meet
So-
you guys. Take care. Good luck. Study hard. Make good grades.
Okay, so you said it's pretty much full time. Is that like 8 to 4 every day during class or in rotations?
Yeah, we've decided that we're going to have classes 2 days a week. So right now the summer is Tuesday, Thursday. You're in class pretty much all day. That leaves Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and or Sunday open for clinical rotations. Katie standards say that you have to have at least 1 day off every 7 days. So the reason why I say and or is because of, you're going to go through rotations Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and or Sunday, which is another benefit of being an entry-level master's degree, right? So an undergraduate, God, I got to get to history and speech and math and all those different things. You're in AT school, just like Dr. Knoblauch said. So you're going to go to class Tuesday, Thursday. You're going to be in class all day, and you're just going to be studying and learning about the theory. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and or Sunday, you're applying that theory in clinical rotations. We don't have to deal with all these other extraneous factors. You're only going to be dealing with athletic training. So one of the biggest concerns is, well, how are you going to fit all that into 2 years? Well, it's summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring. So really it's 6 semesters. If I look at an undergraduate athletic training program,
It's 3 years.
it's 5, right? It's either 2.5 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's really 5 or 6 semesters. So we have 6 semesters. So it's the same. I think just that change of, I don't know how we're going to do this, and I don't know if I think it's just fear.
And you asked if it's full time. Well, that always makes me think, because we're structured on hours tremendously, 20 hours a week, or we have to dictate how many hours a week they can work, and that is the cap. That we can not force them, that's a bad term, but that we can require them to work.
Strike out
You
from
must
record,
work
please.
20, but they can stay if they want, but we cannot require that. But if you think about, like I said, I went to internship, and volleyball practice at 5 a.m., I got to be there at 4:30, and they had 2-a-days, or there's a volleyball game that night, or something, or another sport. You're there till 10 o'clock. That's gone. That requirement to be there as long as you can. And there's an old philosophy that the more you're in the training room, the more you're going to learn. That's great, but if you think about how many times, or I can think about how many times I was sitting in the training room doing my homework, I didn't learn a lot in the morning from 8 to 10 or 8 to 11, but once practices started, that's where you saw a lot of your injuries and whatever else. And so that's kind of what we've moved towards, is we get them rotations specifically during the you might call them the high-risk time of the day, which is during practice or whatever, and that's what our rotation is going to be geared on. So it is full time that in terms of they're going to be committed only to this program, but the classes are Tuesday, Thursday, but the rotations may not start until 1 o'clock on Wednesday, and so they'll have the morning off. It won't be a commitment of all day, every day of 60 hours a week like some of us did when we were students, but it will be considered full time.
That was it, huh? Sure.
As long as I wanted to stay in good graces of the head trainer. If it was anything less than that, it's like you're not committed. But no, that work as much as you can all day. That's just kind of gone a little bit. So.
All right. When I was planning on talking with my friend John Harmon, he's athletic trainer down in Dickinson, and he was saying when he wants to talk about things that I wish I had learned, like how to manage a budget, how to manage a student athletic trainer program.
Yeah.
Is there going to be anything like that inside of your?
Yes. So I'm so glad you brought this up. What people need to understand, right? So, I'm going to speak for all of us. By the way, we have another gentleman that walked in.
Bill jumped in.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, hi.
Nice to meet you.
He's a silent
Bill's
partner.
an athletic trainer. And so what people need to understand, right, when we all got into it, and I'm going to speak for all of us in the room right now, right? I got into it because I loved anatomy. I loved working with an active population. I wanted to learn how the body worked, and when it broke, I wanted to learn how to fix it. And so in getting into that, right, you really want to see, you're an athletic training student, what do you want to see? I want to see somebody's head roll off their body, and I want to figure out if I can fix it, right? That's what it is, right? And the grosser the injury, the happier you were. And so now what ends up happening is that what people need to understand is, okay, we all went through that, and athletic training is a business. This is a business. You are in the business of injury prevention, of rehab and reconditioning, of treatment, of emergency preparedness, of all these other things. And so, yeah, people need to understand it. So we have an organization administration course that we're going to deliver. One of the reasons why I got my doctorate in educational leadership was because my doctoral program was really kind of like the MBA of education, where I learned about organizational structure, organizational leadership, fiduciary management, all those other things that say this is going to prepare you to be a good administrator. Because what I realized was I did not understand the business of what it is that I was doing, and I needed to get something that was going to help me understand that better. How am I going to become a better administrator? And so that's one of the things that people getting into athletic training or that are currently in athletic training is everybody knows. You're now dealing with, okay, you need to be able to write the emergency action plans. You're now billing for services. You need to now understand all the CPT codes and all the ICD-9 codes and all these other things that when we were going through, I remember I took my board of certification. We had one question. I'll never forget the question. It was an O&A question, and it was, what does CPT stand for? And now we have these huge courses. People need to understand human resources. They need to understand all these other facets of the business of athletic training. And so, yeah, that's one of the courses that they're going to take.
Very cool. Because, I mean, like I was telling you yesterday, I was off campus because we were interviewing student athletic trainers, and this is the first year where we've actually interviewed people. Before it was just hey, fill out the application, or hey, show up on the first day of practice, and if we like you and you like us, we'll work together. But now we're we're getting better at what we do,
right?
Because we're trying to improve. But the only reason I do that is because I had the podcast. I talked with Chris Shattuck over at Pearland, and he said, this is what we do, and this is what works for us and builds a good program. So, if I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't have had that. So, because there was no, of course, HBU, it was an internship, but it was a hope you catch something internship. Like go out to baseball practice for 8 hours and hope you catch something about athletic training. I mean, I did good enough. I passed the license exam on the first time, BOC on the second time.
Yeah.
But
my first job, I got handed a stack of insurance claims. I knew nothing about insurance. I panicked. I was like, I am in the wrong. I don't know. I'm going to get everybody sued because they didn't pay their bills. And so I had to go and have a crash course self-taught on insurance codes. And when I left that job and went to actually start teaching courses at Lamar, I included that in my course. Is here's how HMOs work, just to give them some experience. Because if they're a coach, granted not everybody in my courses were going to be athletic trainers, but maybe if they're going to be a coach, just understand this is a part of your job. Yes, you're going to coach and teach classes, but hey, you're going to need to know something about injuries because you may not have an athletic trainer if you're at a small school. here's insurance. When a parent brings you a bill because something happened at school and they're getting billed for it, you have to understand that. So I remember when you ask, is there something you wish you had learned? Mine was insurance. I had no concept of that, and you got this stack of claims that had not been filed from the previous year. And so obviously I'm getting phone calls soon after. I panicked, and I didn't know the terminology. I didn't know what to do. Didn't know the process. So that's what we want to do, is we want to try and get them exposed. And Dr. Yellen's teaching the administrative class, and he's excited about it because he loves that part of it.
That really is an evolutionary process for me. I hated the admin part. I was the guy. I just want to be in the trenches, man. Take care. But then when you start to realize that the success or the failure of your organization is going to rest on, again, what Dr. Knoblauch just said. Can we get these insurance? Can we get all this paid off? Can we develop all these different procedures and policies and all these different things, right? So you need to have a good, sound organizational structure for the rest of the team to be successful. Yeah, I think you're starting to see that in athletic training, whereas the bigger universities, they're having like this overall director of sports medicine that has some sort of admin capabilities. So at a university, you'd be like, assistant athletic director for sports medicine, something along those lines. And then you have your clinical staff. You have your head football, you have your head basketball, head baseball, head softball, etc. And what that really demonstrates is that that's the acknowledgement that athletic training is really moving into a business model, that you have your CEO, your COO, your CFO, or CIO, whatever it is, and then you have all the umbrellas that fall under that. And so I think one of the benefits of this program is that our students, being at University of Houston, Tier 1 institution, like I said before, we have one of the greats that we're working with, Mike O'Shea. And he just won a great award over the College Athletic Trainers Society. And John Houston is working with him, and then you have Amanda and Haji and Hide. And so our students are going to get an opportunity to go into a Division I institution where hopefully they're going to learn about all the administrative things that go along with being successful as an athletic trainer. So it's one of those things that I'm constantly pushing the O&A side. Yep.
All right, so you talked about the students there at U of H, and like you had mentioned earlier, this is a CEU opportunity for anybody listening. They can get CEUs through GHATS, the Greater Houston Athletic Trainer Society. And I know you guys, or at least you, Dr. Yellen, I think had been mentioned that you were interested in kind of building a college membership within GHATS and kind of coordinating that. Is that what or at least being part of it?
Well, yeah. So my focus really is, and I contacted some members at SWATA. What I really want to be able to do is build, I guess I don't even know what it would be called. I don't think it's a faction, but an athletic training education component side, where let's go back and look at the statistics real quick, right? And the statistics say this: if there are 367 athletic training programs in the country, right, there are 41,000 athletic trainers. So if there are only 367 programs, that means like less than 1%, I think that's what the numbers are, program directors and clinical coordinators like myself and Dr. Knoblauch. So if the less than 1% are responsible for the 99+%, then that less than 1% need to make sure that we're up to date on everything that goes on. That way in the program we can educate the students, and we can educate the preceptors, we can educate other affiliated sites on this is really what athletic training is and where it's going and why we need to be able to teach this. And so I've asked some members of SWAT, and they seem to be interested in it, that we're going to start to look at some athletic training education type events. And the same thing, I contacted Bob Marley for next year about talking about athletic training education, where it is now, where we're moving to, where I think it needs to be, this concept of entry-level masters, that kind of stuff. So I think that was the question that you were asking me.
Well, I know we're actually, like, within the GHATS organization, we're looking at having a college membership.
Oh, really?
Like a structural level.
I went completely off page on that
one. Yeah. So, and I thought that they had said that you were interested in like heading that up, or being a big part of that.
Yeah.
I could have just heard wrong, and
I'm happy to. Well,
We'll research it.
We'll research.
You know, it's actually funny.
I'm actually happy to do anything that's going to help.
This is one of the things I've noticed about going from the clinical side of being, working 60, 70 hours a week to going to the academic side is we have so much more time to commit to that kind of stuff. And so I talked to Dr. Mitzi Laughlin, our current SWATA president,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
about getting involved and everything, and getting some committee work, but things like GHATs. I mean, we're here for that now. So anybody that needs help that's out there listening, let us know, because we can commit to that, because we're not doing the football from August until December kind of thing, and it can really work with GHATs, TSATA, SWATA as well. So
and let us advocate for you. Let's hear your voices and find out where you're at and what you need, and let's go out and find out how to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool because, I mean, obviously it's going to benefit us as a organization of athletic trainers, because our focus is to kind of build community and then encourage the profession as a Greater Houston Athletic Trainer Society, and then your job is to kind of bring in good candidates. So if we had a college component, they would here in Houston, it would kind of feed right into you guys.
That's a really good idea.
And
that's I say we go down that. And the other thing that, again, it goes back to one of the first statements. We are the first athletic training program at the University of Houston. We are the first athletic training program in the city of Houston. So we've really got this opportunity, and I've said this all along, and I really truly believe it. We literally have this opportunity to change the face of how athletic training is done, and we can do it as a community effort with all these different partnerships. And when you open up the NATA news and you see somebody that is doing something unique in athletic training, we have the ability to be able to do that here. So as we come together and figure out how to work together, we can keep moving forward with those different options.
I think it's gonna be really cool. The only thing is I'm a little disappointed that I won't be able to go through the program. I have a wife and 2.5 kids. One's on the way.
So I say it's an investment. So
Yeah.
I mean, it is a time commitment, and so we fully understand where you're coming from too.
So
I did that with my doctor. I left a head athletic trainer job, Division I school, and went back just to school. Went to work on a $1,200 a month stipend. It was not easy.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you mean. And I didn't have kids at the time, but it's a commitment. It's an investment for those that really want to do that, and that's what we also ask and demand of them. And do you understand what you're getting into for 2 years? And when you graduate, hopefully you'll be able to pass your boards with a master's degree. But that time in between is what's really, I mean, your life is dictated. It's no different than going to play sports at a university. You're told when to be certain places, how long you're there, where to go, what to eat. We wouldn't obviously tell that, but it's really a lifetime or life change to commit to that program for 2 years. So it's not for everybody.
So I had kind of mentioned this earlier. If I was to get my BOC back, would I be able to host somebody from your program here, like so that they could get observation hours or work with us at a football game or something like that?
So as we start to expand, one of the things that we looked at was we had a lot of interest very quickly in that, hey, let us know what we can do to help. And because
it's appreciated.
very much appreciated.
Yes.
And I promise you we're going to come back and revisit all those people. And so what ends up happening is that because we're new, we want to make sure that along the way, things are going to be done the right way. And so we're going to be using UH Sports Medicine and Bubba Wilson and Dan Barnes and Bob Marley in the first year, summer, fall, spring. And then from there, our students are going to have a couple of unique rotations with two of our co-medical directors. One is Dr. Rahul Bajani, Memorial Hermann Medical Group. The other one is Dr. James Muntz, who's with Methodist and UT Physicians. So our students are going to be able to rotate with Dr. Bajani and Dr. Muntz, and we also have an agreement with Dr. Lowe and Dr. Crumby and UT Physicians that they're going to be able to do gen med rotations. They're also going to be able to do orthopedic surgery rotations. And then in their fall and spring of their last year, we're going to be able to expand on that. So as the program grows, we're going to need these other various sites, and you're going to have students that are going to say, I want to be a head athletic trainer at high school. I want to be a head athletic trainer here. So we're going to keep on reaching out to say, hey, listen, we want your help, and this is what it's going to take to be a preceptor. This is what it means, etc. And so far, even with Texans, Rockets, Astros, Dynamo, they have been very open to the idea. Obviously, in those organizations, they have to, work those requests up all the way up to the top chain,
Mhm.
so it takes some time. And I've learned, again, I said I was at NASA, and so trying to get athletic training rotation there is going to take a few years, but they're open to the possibility, which is incredibly appreciated. Yep.
Very cool. Like I said, I'm excited, and I think it's before.
We're excited that you're excited.
Before we had this conversation, I really didn't understand the entry level masters. Like I said, I'd seen a lot of it on Twitter, and so there's a lot of people saying it's silly, and then hearing your explanation is you don't have experience going to be a physical therapist before you go to physical therapy school. You don't have physical experience to that, and honestly, there's a lot of athletic trainers that I see that I question, or I'm I guess I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but disappointed with just either their parents or the way that they treat students. I hate when athletic trainers do the thing like just suck it up, princess. That's not my job. My job is not to tell them to suck it up. It's they're injured. They're coming to me.
Right.
Let me check out let me find out what's wrong.
They're coming to you for help. Absolutely.
And so, that's just one of those things. I'll just throw some ice on it. Well, that's not my job. Let me evaluate it. And so I think that what you guys are doing is going to really build into the profession and, like you said, a business, and make these make us more accountable, because we're going to be held to a higher standard. So
if you look at the origins of athletic training, right, it comes out of two areas. One is physical education, the other one is physical therapy. And if you go back in the history of athletic training, that's really where it came out of. And if you go look at one of the first athletic training books by Arnheim and Clafs, I think it was written like in 1963. It was 100 pages at best, and it really brought up a lot of issues of very basic first aid kind of orthopedic type things. And because of its original origins in that kind of athletic, paradigm of thought of exactly suck it up and throw some dirt on it, and pain is just weakness leaving the body and all those other things. But you're right. These people are coming to you because they are hurt and they need help, and you are a highly educated medical professional that has the ability to help them. And what people need to understand about athletic training is what makes us incredibly unique and incredibly versatile is we have other components like other like professions. So we have similarities to physician assistant and physical therapy and chiropractic and occupational therapy. But what separates us is that we also have specific domains in injury prevention and wellness protection, and we have specific domains in immediate care and acute care. There is no other medical profession that exists that has all of those components combined. We're it. And so that's what ends up separating us from other like professions, and what makes us incredibly valuable. And people need to start to recognize that, like you said, these patients are going to come to you seeking advice and seeking help, and you're going to use your training to do that. And that if you're going to remain in an athletic setting, your job is to protect the patient. Period. End of story. And your job, when that coach comes down on top of you, listen, and we've all heard it, right? This is a high school football game, and I'm going to put on my best coaching accent right now, right? This is the most important thing this kid's ever going to do in his life. What a horrible thing to say. The kid's 17, 18 years old. This is as good as it gets?
Right.
Right? No, this is not the most important thing. Your job is to make sure that they can move on and they can be successful in the rest of your life. Look what's happening in the NFL right now, this new thing that's happening with Richard Dent and McMahon, right? Here again, here's another lawsuit of the NFL did not tell these players what was going to happen. We call that an informed consent. If you go back to your ONA, right? Here's an informed consent. Here's everything that can happen to you. And that you're starting to see, the NFL players, nobody held a gun to their head and made them do that. But, boy, if we were doing, the things that we should have been doing way back then, you see these guys limping around and they don't remember their names, and they have these rare brain disorders and all these different things. What a shame. What a shame. Yeah. So it's evolved, and I think we need to keep on moving it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that I've been telling Bill is, over the past few years, we've been more intentional about getting better. He used to teach algebra or math anyways, and then I taught biology, like I was saying in the beginning. And so we were busy all day with that, and then you come down here and you're just doing enough to get by. But now that we're down here full time,
Right.
we have the time to go interview, and we have time to make the training room better and make the program better, and teach outside kids CPR and those kind of things. And so
I think that's a credit to your administration too, because if they're willing to recognize that you need that time, that's a tremendous boost to you,
mm-hmm.
and it's better for your students and your athletes as well, because I think a lot of it is they see you. Administrators traditionally saw the athletic trainer standing on the sidelines all day at practice. It's like, well, why am I paying this person, or why is he demanding more time and more money? He doesn't do anything all day, because that's all they saw. They didn't see behind the scenes. Well, now once they learn that, and maybe it's a new generation of administrators coming through or something, I don't know, but if they're willing to recognize what you're doing, it's a tremendous asset for you, but for what you do for the school is just outstanding, that they're giving you that freedom to say, look, you do have a full-time job just in the athletic training room. So it goes back, and to backtrack what you're saying, Dr. Yellen was saying with the lawsuits, one of the things I want to get across to the students in the emergency care class is liability. A kid comes up to you and says, I just don't feel right, and you're like, suck it up and get back out there. Whose fault is it when something goes wrong? It's yours. There's no, I mean, I guarantee you, if you fall under the pressure of a coach and you give in, and then something happens, what's that coach gonna do? He's gonna say, well, the trainer cleared him, even though I was yelling at him, but he still let him go back in, and now he has a permanent brain injury or something.
Right.
So that's what I want our students to understand, or any student, any trainer, athletic trainer out in the field as well, is that it all comes back on you. You are the medical individual. You make the decisions. If you give in to a coach, that's your decision. That's your choice. You have the consequences, because if something happens, I guarantee that coach is not going to say, you know what, it's on me. It was my fault.
Send the lawsuit my way.
I did.
I'll take care of it.
It always comes back to them. So suck it up, princess, like you mentioned. That's great if you're willing to pay the consequence or deal with the consequences of what happens. And I really want to get across liability out there for what can happen. I mean, your career, you're blacklisted. There's a stigma on you. You're the one that let the kid do that, and you knew you shouldn't have. And everybody will say, well, how did he not recognize this, or how did she not know this? In hindsight, you see that on comment sections all the time on the internet whenever something bad happens. How did they not do this? How did a parent can't believe this happened? Kind of thing. And I really want to stress that. I mean, I hope any program stresses that, not just ours, but that's where I think we're leading to, because of these lawsuits. It's really bringing up things like, we got to really do some research on what's going on in these NFL players currently, so that they can still walk when they're 60 years old. So
they know who they are. And Dr. Knoblauch brings up a good point. You have a high school kid, right? Comes off the field, takes a hit to the head, says, "Boy, I'm just not feeling good. I feel dizzy, or I'm just not right." Coach says, "Hey, you know what? Yeah, suck it up, get back in there." That was the old mentality. And the rationale that I give is, that kid goes home tonight and wakes up dead tomorrow, right? I hope everybody picked up on that. But that kid goes home, wakes up dead. Goes home tonight, wakes up dead tomorrow. What ends up happening is that the attorneys don't go after the coaches. The coaches have no formal training. The coaches have not gone through a national certification. They've not gone through a state licensure. There's nothing to sue them for. Who's going to lose their license to practice? It's the athletic trainer, because you were the one that's supposed to make the call. So you need to be able to make sure that you can stand up to the coach or the administrator, or whoever it is, and say, look, it's in my best medical interest, or my best medical opinion, that this patient cannot return to activity at this point. I need to do some more testing. I need to do some more investigation. And you know what? Maybe in 5-10 minutes the kid clears and you go back. Okay. And we can say the same thing for a concussion. You say the same thing for a sprained ankle. The kid comes off, he's limping. Hey, listen, I understand that you want to go back in. I understand that your coach says this is the most important thing you'll ever do in your lifetime. I get it. And I'm going to do everything you can to get you back. But you know what? If you can't get up from this bench and walk normally, if you can't run or cut or jump or squat, you're not going in. I'm not going to take that kind of liability. Because ultimately, if something goes wrong, they're coming after the people with the letters after their names. ATC, LAT, etc. Yep.
So what's the course called where you learn to deal with coaches yelling and cussing at you?
Life.
MAT program.
MAT program. Yeah, we're part of the 2-week onboarding is that we put them through very specific, like the Marine Corps. We're going to break them down and rebuild them so they understand. One of the things I used to do at Southeastern, students I taught the emergency management class, emergency medicine class, and that I'd have them do baseline vitals and the whole thing that goes in a course like that. And I'd have them practice, and then on the days that they had to go take the test or the quizzes, in lab, I'd walk in with a whistle or a bullhorn or an air horn or whatever, and I'd hit it. I'd hit the whistle or the air horn or whatever, and it'd scare them. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you think it's going to really be like?" That's what it's going to be like. You're in the middle of a football game. You can't hear anything.
Yeah.
You better be able to make a decision. I can't make a decision with you breathing over my neck like that. Well, then this
Figure
is
it
not
out.
the right profession for you.
Get a new job.
Yeah.
You need to be able to make a decision. One of my other ones is that when I was in grad school, I taught anatomy, and this guy came. I mean, he was like, God's gift to medicine, and he was really squawking. And the first time he saw a cadaver, he passed out. And then he came back the next day with a change of major form.
Nice.
This is not the profession for you. If you don't like blood and guts, if you don't like intense situations, if you don't like this is now, it doesn't mean that as an athletic trainer you're going to stay in those professions. Like, there are full-time athletic trainers at Disney, and unless Goofy really has had a femoral fracture or something along those lines, so again, as athletic training expands, you have all these other opportunities. Yeah. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
I've learned a lot just sitting here talking, and again, I think it's going to be a really cool program, and it's going to be really great for the city of Houston, bringing in all these athletic trainers and producing all these great athletic trainers, and so
I hope so. I mean, that's our ultimate feedback is from what we were discussing this a couple weeks ago. It's like, what's it going to be like when they start getting MAT graduates applications? Is it going to be like no? Or is it going to be like, oh, this guy, we know so-and-so down the road, they are awesome. I mean, you'll never, that's really the ultimate feedback for us as instructors and program directors, but that's what we want to do is we want to have somebody that knows somebody that knows the type of program that we've put together and the type of student athletic trainer we put out, and we hope it's the person that says, hey, he goes in the definite possibility pile, or and one of the things I want to preach to the students is you're representing a lot of individuals when you're working. You're representing your school, your program, the profession, your personal self. I mean, there's so many things, and just don't do anything to make the program look bad. And one of those is making stupid decisions, like you said. Get in there, princess, and then it's going to be former U of H graduate, athletic trainer or something, and we don't want that. But we just hope to put out a quality product. And the thing that's unique about us is we're in the middle of this shift towards the entry-level master's program. So there's going to be some people that say, well, I think undergrad's the way to go. And so we're going to show that we're not saying there's a right or wrong. We're showing that we're putting out what we hope is a quality product from the entry-level master's program.
And that was a shift for me too. Was coming from the undergraduate, again, I came from a KHEP accredited program where essentially it was an internship, but you had different standards you had to meet, and then going into being faculty and ultimately the director of a KD accredited athletic training program at the undergraduate level, to move to that, okay, this is an entry-level master's, you kind of had to make that little shift a little bit in your thought process. But once you got into it and realized, oh, wait a minute, just like Dr. Knoblauch has been saying, this is AT school. They're going to have all these experiences. On top of it, all the affiliations that we've made are going to give them all these other opportunities. I mean, we have some of the best in the world that have come to the table and offered to help. And we're going to take advantage of those people to say, look, we're going to use you. I've Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Edison, if I'm able to see further, it's because I can stand on the shoulders of giants. And that's what we're doing, that we're going to use this program as a platform to bring in the entire community. Tell us what it is that you need. How do we build this? And how do we stand on these shoulders of giants to see farther? And how can we be an example, not just for Houston, not just for Texas, but for the entire country and the entire world to see, this is what athletic training can do. This is what we're capable of doing. Help us make this possible.
Yeah, it'll be fun to look back in, a few years and just think, where we were and where we are now. Just because there's so much going on. Like even in California, they're working on the bills for the, the license or the name protection or whatever, and they're doing stuff in Florida for that kind of thing. And and again, I catch all that off of Twitter, so I don't really know what all they're talking about. But you guys, meeting with you guys, I get to learn a little bit more about what all that means. And
we're happy to do this anytime. You want us to come back, we'll do it.
All right.
Yeah,
every day. We'll come in.
This is
Everyone's
just
saying-
the evolution of the profession. I mean, if you think about what the, like I said before, I grew up in the internship, and I remember when accreditation came, and you either graduated from an accredited program or you don't get your national certification. There was this tremendous, backlash in the profession because all the non-accrediting programs were like, well, I'm going to lose my students, and there was a lot of panic. And so I think there's a similar shift to that. Is they hear this white paper document comes out, and they say, well, you're saying everybody needs to go to entry-level masters. We're going to lose all our students, and it's not. But it evolves a profession, and so we went from, like I said, as an undergrad, I just sat in the training room and hoped I saw stuff. Now it's dictated. The student must be exposed to this. The student must be exposed to this. Must be taught this. Must be taught this. So when they graduate, it's basically it's more constrained. They want to, instead of just sitting there for 4 years and getting these experiences and hope to see stuff, or working football every year and seeing a lot of individual injuries, it's more grouped, I guess, for the students aspect. And that's what they're trying to do, is just send you to athletic training school, is one way of putting it. But just it's part of the evolution of the program, or of the profession, and that's what we're kind of jumping on with this entry-level master's programs. We happen to be starting this at the time that's the recommendation. We're not saying it's the best, the only way to go, anything like that. We're just saying that we have this opportunity to create this program. We want to get good students in and put a good product out, and hopefully the community will see that, and the profession will improve with the students we put out there, and hopefully it'll work out for everybody. So.
I agree.
I concur. All right, Bill, you have any other questions? You came in late.
I'm just trying to catch up what's going on here.
You don't even know what we're talking about, right?
I kind of got.
Yeah.
I got the idea.
Yeah.
Well,
Bill,
you
give
guys-
us a little bit of your background.
Is this mic on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I've been an athletic trainer all my life practically. I started in high school back in 1972 and went to Sam Houston State. Worked under Billy Wilson in just an apprenticeship program, soaking up as a sponge, learning as much as I can, and went to Dallas when I graduated. Worked for about 7 months with Eddie Lang, was my high school trainer, and just working at a stadium, trying to get on in Dallas. It's like Houston, they have them in stadiums and stuff. So, and then Pasadena job came open, been here ever since, started in 1980.
At Pasadena High School.
First athletic trainer they put in a high school.
Really?
So, yeah, Jeremy's like my umpteenth, 100th assistant. So, but, we started off by myself for about 15 or so years and teaching a full class load.
My dad was a high school teacher and a football coach, and so I still remember I was 6 or 7 years old, and I'd be in the coach's office, and I'd watch my dad tape ankles, and I was just fascinated by that. And then when I started off at a junior college, Santa Barbara City College in California, and I worked under the head athletic trainer there by the name of Susan Houlihan. And I remember, as a sports medicine student, essentially you're taping ankles, and you learn in that first time that you tape an ankle and there's no wrinkles and it's perfect. It's like, man, I have arrived. It does not get any better than this. And then I go to Cal State Northridge in their program, and then Long Beach, and I can almost pinpoint the times that, the first time I got a positive Lockman's, or the first time I diagnosed a concussion the right way, or the first time I rehabbed a shoulder the right way, or the first time I did CPR, all these other things. And so it's really interesting to see the history of athletic training, where it was, where it is now, what it's becoming. That athletic training now has that seat at the table with all the other professions, PA, PT, OT, chiropractic, and that here we are, and that we have a right to be here, and that we're qualified to do so, and that and it's one of those things that every time an athletic trainer is successful, we're all successful. And every time you hear about an athletic trainer that does something wrong, you take it personally, because you think, oh man, we've worked so hard to get here and where we're going, what we're doing. Why is this person doing that? And that, again, like Dr. Knoblauch said, you are representing yourself, but you're also representing your program, your university, your entire profession. Don't screw this up.
Well, I just like what y'all are doing because when I started as a trainer, it was hit or miss and type learn as you go. And I mean, I've got 30 plus years of experience, but the trainers that are coming out now, or the last, I guess, with Jeremy's years and stuff, when they come out, they're like being thrown into the wolves and everything basically, and they have no knowledge of everything as far as the the insurance, the administration side of athlete training. In high school settings, there's different settings. I mean, you got the 4A, 3A, the 5A, getting ready now to be 6A. You know, you got your big districts, your little districts, and all that. You know, lucky when you have the big districts, we have more people, to pull from, to cover, to help us. But if you're in a one big district, if you're in a 6A district and you're the only high school, and you only have 2 of y'all there, and you have to cover in junior high and all that, and may possibly have to teach. That's
how you guys keep your sanity with those schedules.
No wonder the burnout rate.
Oh,
the
sure.
Trainers have been out of the program because they can't handle it.
Sure.
Because they didn't know what to do.
And that's
y'all's
right.
program is going to at least give them the idea of what the different
And
levels
I hate
are.
to bring up this is probably you're going to get phone calls on this, but 8, 10, 12 football coaches and 1 athletic trainer for the whole school. I mean, it's a problem. I mean, what do you do? Well, first question is, what do? You go to the administrator and say, I can't afford it. Okay, end of discussion. But I mean, it's frustrating to see that, and then you get burnt out. You work 80 hours a week because you're working 6 a.m. doing treatment sometimes, and you're working until a football game Friday night at midnight, and then you've got other sports going on Saturdays. And how you guys handle it and keep your sanity, I'm telling you, it blows my mind because I got burnt out. And I was at a college, and I didn't have it near as bad as you did. Yeah. And so you said you've been doing this since 1980. You just went up even higher on my echelon of respect because how you can put up with that sometimes, and just it's I mean, you have to adjust your life to it. Absolutely.
Well, when I was in the 20s, it's just this was my life.
Yeah.
I didn't get married till I was in my mid 30s, so my work was my life.
And you probably had to make an adjustment too, and your wife had to understand obviously what your schedule was like too. It's
I mean, it's much easier now. There's 2 of us, and we're not in the classroom. We actually have more time. We get busier doing paperwork. There's more paperwork now with all the concussions and the impact testing and all this other stuff we have. I mean, it's just.
I think the other thing that people need to realize is that, this newer generation of athletic trainers, that they're going to come out and they have access to this information that we never had. I mean, I always say, let me back up by saying I took the very long way around undergraduate. It took me 7 years to get out of undergraduate. I spent 4 years at a junior college. So it took me some time to get to where I wanted to be. But obviously I finally got there. And when I was coming out of undergraduate, Netscape, phone dial-up Netscape. Well, these new athletic trainers that are coming out, they have everything at their fingertips, and they can look anything up. Well, as a profession, we start to move towards that and say, look, there's 2 of me, right? There's 2 of us for 300 and some odd athletes. We need to be able to take advantage of technology where, yeah, you're right, I can't be everywhere all the time, but geez, I've got this cell phone, I've got this iPhone, and I've got this iPad or tablet, whatever it is, and that I'm always accessible, and that the coaches need to understand that, hey, you know what, coach, you may not always have the coverage because there are 300 and some odd athletes, and there's only 2 of us, and there are 12 coaches there. But each of those coaches can be first aid and CPR certified. Each of those coaches can have AED training, all those other things. And that coach, you need to be smart enough not to say, suck it up, sweetie. Suck it up, princess. Throw some dirt on it. You need to understand this is an injury. And you know what, coach? And this is the other thing I always tell the coaches was, if this was your son or daughter, how would you treat that? Would you tell them to go suck it up?
Or would somebody's son or daughter.
Yeah, that's right. Well, would you tell them to go suck it up, or would you tell them, oh my God, this is my son or daughter, and something's really wrong, and I need to get the best care possible. Right. And that's how you should treat them all. And so hopefully, these administrators start to realize, whether it's high school, college, I don't care whether you're at NASA, I don't care whether you're at Disney, whatever it is. But in order for these athletic trainers to be successful, They need the support behind them so we don't run into this burnout. So we can take these young kids coming out that are very educated, that can outlast 5 years, 10 years. You know, they can be the profession for 30 years, 40 years. That's an outstanding accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, and since, you know, like you said, since we're teaching all those classes, and now we're just teaching sports medicine, just teaching athletic training. So much more we can do, but there's so much less stress because we're not up there preparing lessons for 120 kids and teaching biology and having all the requirements for those, and
grading papers and dealing with student issues and parent-teacher conferences, and that's the other thing too, is that if you look at the healthcare profession, right, and again, here's athletic training at the healthcare profession, and what makes us incredibly versatile is that you can have a very qualified healthcare professional like an athletic trainer at the high school, and that they're going to be serving this dual purpose. They'll be teaching, they'll also be an athletic trainer. Okay, the evolution of athletic training at the high school is that we're going to hire the athletic trainer as a healthcare professional, and then as the stipend, they're going to be teaching. Right, so it's starting to get there. They're starting to, and I think, again, looking at how litigious the society is, boy, you know, these schools are going to want to avoid lawsuits. They don't want to be in these situations where, you know, geez, we missed it and the kid died of a subdural hematoma. We don't want to be anywhere near that. You know, we don't want the kid coming back in 5 years saying, you know, I don't know my name because I took all these hits because you guys didn't do what you're supposed to be doing. And I understand there's some sort of badge of honor in that, and that's fine. That when you're a teenager and when you're in college and even when you're a young person in the pros, whatever that is, you're not thinking long term. You're not thinking 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It's our job as athletic trainers to say, I understand that I had to disqualify you now because your ankle, because of concussion, because of a shoulder. But trust me, when you're 40, 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, and you're able to play with your kids and your grandkids, and you know who you are, and you can walk around and you can have a conversation, and you're able to go on and do something positive in society, you're going to look back on this interaction and say thank you.
I was at NATA meeting probably 2001 or 2002, and Cal Ripken was the speaker, and he was talking about his streak, and just clear as bell, I remember what he said. He was having some severe back pain, and he was getting treatment at the athletic trainer. He's like, you know, I got to play through this. I got to play through this. You know, not because of the streak, just because he wanted to compete. And the athletic trainer said to him, he said, Cal, don't you want to dance with your daughter at her wedding? And Cal said that hit home. What I'm doing. He's just the way he said it, and it was just a hates to use the word, but as a male, but a beautiful moment for making that point across. Is just, you know, you got to think in the future. You know, the coach will come in and yell at you. Well, I played through that. Well, that's just funny because you complain about your ankle all the time, how much it hurts. I don't want this kid doing that for the rest of his
your
life.
knee replacement at age 40. You know?
Yes.
You know,
but I thought that was a great moment that Cal hit home with there's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people in there. As he said, you know, you guys do a great job of making us realize that the moment is not the most important part. Is this going to affect me in the future? And,
yeah, that's what I do with the kids that like have their knee injuries and stuff, and I tell them about their, you know, the meniscus repair or meniscectomy. You know, I tell them the difference. I say, you want the repair. I said, because if you get the part of your cartilage removed,
keep taking pieces, you'll end up in left.
Yeah, you won't.
You'll have a repair. It'll be called a total
later.
replacement.
And I say, you see some of these coaches that are older, they bend when their knees are bent and they walk funny, and I'll say, you want to be like that when you get older. I mean, I use that point to them about, you know, this is you're 16 or you're 15. You know, we have ACLs at 15.
That's crazy.
You know, I'm telling them, you know, you're this age. I said, you want to be able to walk and do stuff when you're my age? I said, do you want to do that or not? I said, this is high school. I mean, you know, the rarity of being professional athletes just keep dwindling the older you get. And I said, I know, enjoy your high school career and all that, but you want to stay healthy at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
And you know, a lot of these high school kids have, you know, I don't want to ruin my chance of going to a big-time college. Okay, has a big-time college called you yet? No, then don't worry about it. You'll be just keep playing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was indestructible in high school. I know that. I'm sure all of you were too. But in hindsight, it's like you had no clue how insignificant that was.
I was Superman. I literally.
But if we don't tell them, if we don't say that to it, reinforce it to them, or we just go ahead and say, oh yeah, just keep walking on that knee before you have surgery, you know.
Suck it up. Throw some dirt on it.
My comment is, you get no sympathy from me in 10 years when you call me. I'm gonna tell you I told you so. I know you're not supposed to, but I'm gonna tell you I told you so, and you didn't want to listen. That's mean, but
yeah, we got to figure out a better way because I mean, really, I mean, why do we not think about the future? I mean, we're all sitting here saying I wasn't thinking about the future.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is to get the buy-in from coaches, to get the buy-in from administrators, to get the buy-in from parents. To have these open sessions of, hey, look, we want your child to be able to compete safely, but in order to do that, in order for you to drive a car, you need to go through this specific training. In order for you to, do all these other things, you have to go through this specific training. In order for you to be able to play sport, you should have to go through this specific training. And so the parents need to be aware when they fill out these forms. Make it a big forum. Bring everybody in, pass the forms out then, have enough athletic trainers and administrators on site so that you can answer questions. And what about concussions? Or what about ACL tears? Or what about all these different things? And be open about this is what can happen. I mean, and you talk about, thinking of the future. Okay, well, geez, can my child get hurt? Yes.
And
yes,
actually, Jeremy brings up a good point. What can we do? But there's something that's going on in the profession in the ATC world. This called evidence-based practice. And so what they're doing is they're making sure that you have education. You have to get CEUs now in evidence-based practice. And what that is do you understand how to evaluate the current methods that exist, basically? And another way to put that is why are you putting ice on? Well, because that's what I was taught to do. That's the way my head trainer taught me to do it. Well, what does the evidence say about that? I'm trying to think of some examples of what people do that really has been shown. I mean, I don't know, diathermy or something, but is the evidence out there that is really effective, or are you just doing it because you're stuck in that mode of that's what I was taught to do, that's what works? And so now they're saying you need formal training and formal CEUs on looking at the evidence, look at the studies. What do the studies show? If the study says, look, we just don't see any real benefit of doing, say, diathermy overdoing, or shortwave diathermy or something over a proper warm-up. I'm just trying to pull stuff out of the air here, but they're trying to get that, so they're trying to force some educational aspects on you of you need to understand how to evaluate what's out there and then make the best practices decision based on that. So there's a little shift on that as well. And now one of the bad parts of that a lot of people are going to be upset with is now they have to get 10 CEUs every 2 years in evidence-based practice. And there's actually I took some online, some of the free NATA CEU quizzes, and there's a lot of statistics on there. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I got into this profession is there was no math at the time. I mean, I remember I was looking at the curriculum and I was like, there's no math. I had to take biomechanics was the worst thing I had. I took college algebra and biomechanics for my first 4 years of school, and now I'm in a different situation because I went back and got the PhD, so I've seen this before. But there's a lot of people that are going to see all the statistics and they're going to like, this is crazy. But what it's trying to get at is, can you evaluate the different studies that are out there? How do you make the decision? This one says it's not effective. This one says it is effective. Well, which of those two are right? Well, can you delve into them a little bit and see that this one used a better population of subjects and got the results that they deemed were the most appropriate? So when you say that, what do we do? One of the things the NATA is doing is that they're trying to get people to be educated or to build up their knowledge base on how to evaluate the current practices to make the best decision, so that we get rid of that whole, well, that's just the way I was taught. I mean, I think we've all been somewhere, some athletic trainer at some point. You ask them why they're doing that, because that's the way we've always done it. Well, we also, if that was the case, we'd be doing a 12-inch incision on your knee to repair your ACL too, or we'd still be all paying in cash everywhere we go. But we adapt over time, and I think that's what the NATA is moving towards anyway for this evidence-based practice continuing education requirement now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mark Knoblauch. This is why he's awesome.
I'm stepping down off my soapbox.
No, I'm telling you, this is one of the benefits of, again, he's got his PhD and from UH in exercise science, went on to his postdoc. And as you start to look at all the requirements of athletic training and the competencies. This was one of those things of he comes with this specific set of skills that A, he was a head athletic trainer, and B, he's got all this research background, and you put those two things together, and this is where the profession's going. And there you go. Up top.
This guy makes me want to get pumped up to go back to work just hearing about myself. When I listen to him talk.
I recorded this thing every morning. Good morning, Dr. Knoblauch. How are you? Today you're going to be awesome.
That'll work.
So what other questions you guys have about the program, about athletic training?
Or are we building your megabytes too high to even get it posted?
Nah, I don't think so.
Are you getting any Twitter questions? Is nobody listening to us?
How much longer is this going to take? Who got these guys on the air?
I don't know, I'm getting something on Twitter. Let me see.
I got to tell you, let me thanks for doing this.
You can't send your own questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna
send yourself a
tweet
question.
Is Dr. Yellen really as awesome in person as he sounds on the air? That doesn't count.
Let's see.
So Bob Marley retweeted it.
Yeah, but look, our department chair, Dr. Chuck Lane. This thing is cool. Watching you live. It's pretty cool.
Yeah?
Yeah. My wife is watching us, so that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, see, my wife usually does, but she volunteers Wednesdays, and so she might be home now. We've been talking for like 2 hours. So
you're gonna have to make excuses for us. It's like they wouldn't shut up. Sorry, honey.
Yeah, I think you guys just have an appointment you're trying to avoid, huh?
Hey, I'm telling you, academic side, this is great. We have time to do this.
I can talk about this for years. I can go on.
There's the time demands compared to what you guys do in the clinical setting versus what we do. It's just unbelievable. I'm so used to. I have to check my phone every 5 minutes, and I don't get 3 AM phone calls. This is great.
Except for me, I call them.
Yeah, I just say, I didn't hear my phone.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
I understand. It's all right. I turn mine off. So it'll be exciting to bring you guys back maybe at this time next year, and we say, all right, well, how was the first year? What is your observations of what are you going to improve? What are you going to do to bring in the next class and that kind of thing? So I think it's been a great show. The ones where you guys just talk and have the conversation is far better than some of the ones where my students just what is it that you do? And it's okay. They're high school freshmen. They're learning how to talk to professionals. But
the other thing too is that I'll put the offer out is that if you have specific topics that are related to athletic training, sports medicine that you want us to come back and talk about, we're happy to do this. One of our goals of the program is to make sure that we get as much exposure as possible and that people know about us. And so everything that we do, like I said, we're going to take a picture of the 4 of us, if you don't mind, and we're going to post that on our program website. We're going to post it on the department website and Facebook pages. And one of the goals that we have is to get out and to have this program exposed as much as possible. The more people that know about us, the more people are going to inquire about us, the more people are going to know about athletic training. They're going to want to join our program, and we just keep on growing and growing. One of the benefits we have right now is, again, we're the first. We're the first at UH. We're the first in Houston. And when you're the first in the 4th largest city in the country, and you've got people like Memorial Hermann Sports Medicine Rehab and Ironman, Dr. Lowe and UT Health Science Center and UT Physicians behind you, UH Sports Medicine, and you're part of a Tier 1 institution, and you're the first graduate program in this area, you have a lot of people that are ready to come to the table to help you out. We are, open and willing.
Where were you 30 years ago?
What's that? Yeah. Yeah. So we're really excited about this opportunity.
Very cool. And like I said, this has been a great show. If there's more you want to talk about, we can.
You know what? I will talk. I can be here all day talking about this.
Yeah, don't throw that out there.
So
you'll regret it.
Hey, 8 o'clock at night. This guy's still going on.
I'm trying to shut the lights off. He's like pulling your hand away. No, wait.
No, you don't understand. It's the board certification. Right. So anything that any questions you guys have, we're happy to do it. And again, when you want us to come back, we'll come back.
All right,
we love opportunities like this.
So we're going to work this into one of the rotations as your students have to come to the podcast and
And actually, we probably fall into, believe it or not, That's a good idea. We could throw that in the O&A class because part of your organization administration is one of the things that I've always said is, okay, you're a head athletic trainer at high school XYZ, and you're the first athletic trainer they've ever had, and you've got to develop all this information on what an athletic trainer is, what are your qualifications, you got to get in front of the boosters, you got to go talk in front of people, you got to develop all this buy-in, right? Because you need all the support, and the school has come to you and they said, hey, look, I understand that you have a $15,000 budget, but we can only give you $5,000. That means that you got to make up $10,000. How are you going to do that? And then on top of it, when you go start to spend on capital, right? What do your margins look like? How are you going to develop those relationships with your Medco rep? How are you going to go develop your relationships with your orthopedist? How all these different things, and that you really people need to understand. Again, it goes back to the business. You need to treat this like this is your own small business. And one of the things that when I first came on here, I treat this program like it's our business. And I told Dr. Knoblauch that in the beginning, was that, we're going to treat this like this is a business. If it's good for the program, we're going to do it. If it's not good for the program, we're not going to do it. If it's good for one individual and that one individual is representing the program and it's a benefit, then we're going to do it because it's good exposure. We keep on building. If it's good for one individual, but it's only good for that individual and not good for the program, we're not going to do it. So it's your own small business. And so part of that is owning it and building it and figuring out the business side of everything that you're doing and how to benefit and how not to benefit and relationships. So you bring up a great idea, is that we'll get these students to sit in front and talk about athletic training and their experiences, and they need to get comfortable doing
At least, you can talk about their college experience.
Yeah.
Where they're going,
what they
they're
notice
learning.
different from undergrad as a full-time undergrad versus an MAT program.
Or like you were saying, the evidence base, so like defending some point that they've heard. I wouldn't say I'm in any way an expert, and that's why I bring in lots of people to talk, because lots of people are experts, not me. So I can do a lot of things well, but nothing great. So I don't know. I say that anyways, but it's really cool because
don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, Friday. I don't know if you guys know Josh Stone at all, but he's against ice. And so I've talked with him before, but Steve Kennelly, the athletic trainer for the New York Giants, I want to have both of them on. And Steve is he's for ice, saying, hey, this works. It works for the athletes. They like it. Don't tell them it doesn't work, basically. So do what works for them. And Josh is saying, don't use it because there's no evidence. And so it's going to be a good conversation, just like you're saying, debating a evidence-based thing. So
it's really interesting to bring this up. I could talk about this for hours. So both ice and heat, right? They are part of the specific spectrum that only really penetrate, a couple centimeters.
Right.
So, I can see on a theoretical standpoint, well, the ice doesn't work because it's really only penetrating, right? It's part of this particular spectrum and only penetrates, a couple centimeters. However, it's moving at a slower wavelength. So it's able to transmit energy through body tissues. The other thing is that, which is irrefutable, is that the gate control theory, right? You've got the gate control theory that says it's an afferent pathway. Ice hits the spot, travels up on these, A alpha and A beta fibers, get to the brain, and the brain's able to block out the pain. And that those fibers are a lot, are wider in diameter, so they can transmit faster than the pain fibers, C or A delta, those kind of things. So I can see both sides of it.
Yeah, and that's actually
so which is right.
Well, and that's the best thing.
It depends on the athlete.
Well,
basically.
and it depends on the clinician, right? If you go, let's take an ACL repair right now. There are three essentially accepted methods. One is a cadaver allograft, right? One is a semi-tendinosis autograft. The other one is bone patellar bone, 1/3 patellar tendon autograft. Okay, which is best? It depends on the surgeon. It depends on the comfort level. It depends on what that person's doing, right? It has all these dependent factors. So again, it's what the research backs up. And so, which is best, right? Me personally, I don't believe in heat. I don't think it works for the reasons why I said that it can't travel on the spectrum that ice can travel on. It's the same debate between ultrasound and diathermy. I'm a bigger fan of diathermy than I am of ultrasound. I don't think ultrasound does what it says it's supposed to do. Same reason why, back in the day, and you guys all learned it, you can't put E-stim over the spine. Why? Well, it'll affect the spinal cord. No, that's not the answer. The answer is bone is a poor conductor of electricity. So if you try to set up an inferential treatment over the spine, it's not that it's going to hit the spinal cord. There was one study about spina bifida that showed that, but that's where the spinal cord is exposed. So you put the interferential over it, right? It can't do what it's supposed to do. Why? Because bone's a poor conductor of electricity. That's your answer. Not, well, this is what we always did. Right. So yeah. Okay, sorry. That's another 10-hour conversation. I'm all athletic training all the time.
It works. It works. Okay, so I guess I shouldn't say anything else because then
you'll get him started again.
We'll just save it for the, I will need somebody that can carry a conversation at the beginning of the year. Last year I had Bubba, Bubba Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
Bubba can carry a conversation with the wall for a day, so I love Bubba.
Bubba, I hope you're not listening.
Bubba's great. I hope he is listening. Bubba, listen, I got to thank Bubba. When I first got here, man, Bob Marley, Bubba Wilson, Dan Barnes, that whole crew, Kevin Bastine, they welcomed me like I was one of their own. Mitzi Laughlin, Dan O'Connor, they were all outstanding, and they really made, my whole transition experience great. And they have, provided opportunities for us and opened up doors for the program that, I can't thank them enough. So, yeah, Bubba can go talk to a wall for a day and a half and never get bored.
Mm-hmm.
And then laugh at the wall's response.
Yeah. So I may have you come back out at the beginning of the year because I need somebody that can, because when you got new students in here, they don't really know what to do at all, even if we practice like 5 days in a row. So.
Put myself and Bubba in the room together.
I need some new computers.
And then leave.
I need some new computers with empty hard drives.
Did you hear his hesitation? I don't. Yeah.
So, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and close it out then.
Great.
I definitely want to thank the people who helped make this possible. We talked about GHATs earlier. CEUs provided through going through ghats.org. If you're a member there, then inside the member area, you go click on Sports Medicine Broadcast Evaluation, so you can get your CEUs through this. And this episode, I might actually have to chop into two because it actually did eclipse. It just clips 2 hours, so
yes.
Probably the longest one ever. But again, when conversation's great, why stop it? So
you're trying so hard to make it sound positive that we just rambled.
But it wasn't. There was everything.
That was good.
Yeah, no. And so ghats.org again for CU opportunities for listening to this, so you could become a better athletic trainer, and then you can apply to the Masters of Athletic Training program there at U of H.
www.hhp.uh.edu/MAT.
Did you catch all that? One more time.
www.hhp.uh.edu/MAT.
All right, so hopefully you got that. And then that's where you can find Dr. Yellen and Dr. Knoblauch's information and everything about the program, the costs, the entrance requirements, how to get the physical, the drug test, the background check, and every other ridiculous requirement you have to get into that program. So, and they used to have a couple spots if you can get all that done in about a week and a half and apply and get accepted to the university and all that.
There you go. Good point.
So, PISD Education Foundation, I'm not sure if you can see, no, I don't think you can see in the camera, but right behind Dr. Yellen there was another check that we got on Thursday for $5,000 so that we can buy biofeedback units. So we're going to buy 2 for each high school so we can train our kids so that when they go to U of H, the Masters of Athletic Training program, they've already used biofeedback units to identify muscles or to help with rehab and stuff like that. So they do an awesome job of supporting us. The Pasadena ISD Education Foundation is really cool, and I really appreciate everything they do. So if you want to check anything out from us, our website, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com, where you can watch live almost every Wednesday. Times change frequently because the bell schedule does. We're going to have a special episode this Friday with Josh Stone and Steve Kinley talking about ice, and hopefully, again, I'll just sit back and let the guys talk and go from there. Twitter is PHS Sports Med, and using the hashtag DSMB, you can ask questions live. And then Google Plus Sports Medicine Broadcast, Facebook.com/PHS Athletic Training. Do you have any last comments there, Josh?
I got nothing. Just thanks for the opportunity. This is outstanding. We're happy to come back at any time. And again, the Master of Athletic Training Program at the University of Houston, www.hhp.uh.edu/MAT.
/MAT.
It's a historic moment. Dr. Yellen just said he has nothing to say. This is historic.
I'll just edit that part out. All right, so for Jeremy, Bill, Sports Medicine 1 Kids, Dr. Knoblauch, Dr. Yellen, that's a wrap.
That was cool. Hey, I need to get a picture with you guys. Can somebody come in and take a picture of us four?
Nice to meet you.
Can we do it like in this room?
Yeah.
That was awesome. I hope you have
That's
nowhere to do
Jeremy, you
Dude.
have a really cool setup here. I mean, the students, all that shit.